What is going on, diehards, degenerates, and gamblers? How's everybody doing on this miraculous Monday evening? It is pay-per-view time, baby. UFC 285. We are talking gambling on fights right here on the Die Hard MMA podcast. This is Pub Sports Radio. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. And a special shout out to my guy, Anthony, who is in the chat an hour early saying, F my life. Anthony, you get the extra love today. I appreciate you showing up early to the show. How's everybody doing? We're rocking the baby blues, the diehard stimmy check, the good old money chain. We're coming off of another winning week, folks. I'm feeling good. I had to give myself a little pep talk after Saturday's fights because I profited 0.261 units at UFC Vegas 70, and I was disappointed. It was one of those weeks where even though I made money, even though the reads were good, it wasn't enough. And I had to check myself. It's like, Clint, we're getting greedy. Yes, I could have smashed one of those Hail Mary parlays if I had just tweaked it just a little bit. You know, I added that extra leg of Johnson inside the distance to my normal three-leggers. And of course, would have caught the three-legger, but I added that fourth leg and it bit me. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just making these little bitty mistakes, folks. The explosion is coming. The legendary night is coming. I can feel it. It's close. We're going to get there. We just got to keep doing what we do. And that's break down these fights with awesome guests, with the best damn chat in the game. And that's you guys. How is everybody doing? UFC Shell, Phil Parker, we got K-Dub Reacts, we've got Glenn Bott in the house, oh Dizzle, we got Dan Temper, we got Nolan Graff, the Sports Keg, who, by the way, I'm glad showed up for the show tonight, folks, because I've been shouting it from the mountaintops. You need to go follow my guy Keg, especially if you're on Twitter. He put me on the winner in NASCAR again this weekend at 12-1. That's 3 weekends in a row. My guy Keg has put money in my pocket at ridiculous, stupid numbers, and he's doing it all for free on Twitter. Go follow him. There's no reason not to. Genova in the house saying Clintus Duplessis, and that's what's up. Hey, I believe the inventor of Clintus Duplessis is none other than my co-host this week from the Club and Sub podcast. It's Danny Lags. What's going on, Danny? How you doing tonight, man?
What's up, Clint? But what I will say though, I don't think I was the founder of that. I can't take credit for that. I think it was Dan. Best Fight Picks.
Okay.
I think it's Dan.
You know what?
I'm not going to take credit for it because I think it was Dan. So
I'm glad you fessed up to that. We will definitely give the Bald Gang credit. Shout out to Dan. I believe I got my Dans mixed up. There's a few of you.
And then for the guy who was here an hour earlier, I did just notice as well, because I think Ryan messaged me as well. The original tweet, I think you had 4:30 Eastern time, which wouldn't be an hour ahead of this, but still.
Did I put Eastern time on the damn tweet?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my bad, everybody. If I put 4 p.m. Eastern on the tweet, that's my own fault. Y'all know it's 4 p.m. my time. I always do Eastern, so everybody's on the same page. It's supposed to be 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so I apologize. I owe you an apology for that. We got Pink Fraud in the chat already with the $5 dono, saying after you swept that card, I placed the full card pick parlay and hit a 10-legger. Let's go. Congratulations, Pink, on that. All right. Yeah, we're getting close, man. The reads have been good. I'm not normally the picks guy that's like, oh, I got, only 2 picks wrong this week. Kind of have been the last couple of weeks. We're feeling it, Danny. How are you doing? How was UFC Vegas 70 for you?
Not too bad. I know we talked about it a little before the pod, but for me, just under minus 0.6 units loss. To me, I mean, my biggest play of the card, I should have just stuck with that for the only play of the card, which was the under 2.5 rounds in the Lioness fight, parlayed with the under 2.5 rounds in the Pete Gonzalez fight, came out to minus 140, had 2 units on that. that should have been a smash spot. But I had 2 other plays as well, Johnson, and as well we talked about the Aliv Alves under 2.5 rounds at Pick'em. Thought there was finishing upside. We saw that play out, just no finish. Thought it was worth the shot, but yeah, just small loss for me on the night.
I hear you. Nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes good bets don't necessarily always win. You know that better than anybody,
Yep.
man. And I've been talking about it. I've been kind of telling myself that there are times where you just got to take the easy money. Like, even if you've got a whole MMA card to gamble on, if there's a spot that's just like a smash above everything else, I just got to learn that sometimes it's okay to bet the one easy spot and not bet the rest of the card, take the money and run for next week.
Yeah, true. But and we will get to later in this card. I think there is one spot, you might not want, you might plug your nose a little bit for it, but I think it's 100% like where the line's at, you have to play it.
Okay. All right. Nice little teaser there. They call that foreshadowing in the business, folks. Shout out to an absolute legend in the MMA breakdowns game, Will Martin. Congratulations on your shout out, I believe, on the Ariel Helwani gambling show today. Congratulations on your massive weekend as well. All right, everybody, we don't need to drag this intro out any further than we already have. We got 14 fights to get to. Big pay-per-view week. If you haven't already, do me a favor and smash the like button here. And then if you guys wouldn't mind, comments always help the algorithm on the show as well. So when it wraps up, come on back and tell me who your favorite bet is in the comments section below. But the first fight that we are going to break down for you right here live on the show is going to be Loik Radzhabov taking on Esteban Ribovics. And I'm sure I'm saying 1, 2, 3, or all of those names incorrectly in some way, shape, or form. We had Loik coming in here on short notice from the PFL. He is replacing Kamwilla Kirk. I was actually excited for this fight, Danny. Like, Kamwilla Kirk's one of those guys that I've had a bit of that up and down relationship on. I think he's better than he's shown. I was excited to see him fight, but unfortunately he fell off and Esteban needed a new opponent. So we've got 16-4-1 Loik, who just fought on Eagle FC. He's also a PFL veteran, trains at Kill Clip FC. He's only 31 years old. One of these guys that you look at and you think should be like 38, but he's not. He's still technically in his fighting prime. This guy's got that grinding style, barges his way recklessly at his opponent, loads up on those big power hooks. Really all hooks. The only thing he throws is hooks. Bullies his opponent up against the cage. He's got some good submissions on him, dangerous front chokes. He's got 4 losses. All 4 of those by decision. The guy is very tanky, very durable, 2-time PFL runner-up, fought names like Nathan Schulte, Chris Wade, Raushman Fio. So, like, he's had a high level of experience here. And he's one of these guys that even though he kind of looks like he's gassing out late in the fight, just keeps going, like just pushes right on through that, mind over body type of stuff. Esteban, on the other hand, 11-0. This is his debutante fight here with the UFC, coming off the Contender Series, 100% finish rate in 11 fights, 6 of those coming in the first round. This guy is a fast starter. He comes out, recklessly, almost disrespectfully of his opponents with a long, hard jab. He keeps that guard up nice and high, though. He's got fast hands. The counter strikes on this kid are something. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here based on the PFL numbers, and it does look like he's actually going to be about 2 inches taller. So this is a big, big kid coming in here. I'm excited. I love this fight. Obviously, the lines are brand new out there, so some of the books don't even have this one. From what I was able to find out there, it does look like we have got Loik as a decent-sized favorite, about -250, but money coming in on the dog, as you would expect, the hype coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. Danny, talk to me about this fight. What do you think? First fight of the night. What are you doing?
Yeah, to me, honestly, I think obviously there is some short notice nature with Loik. His cardio, like you mentioned, he seems to fight through fatigue pretty well. His gas tank's, a bit questionable. And, in the stand-up, he's a bit hittable as well. But largely, I think this is a good fight for him. Ribovics, kind of just a meme regional guy, I think. Like, big power early, but like you mentioned, all first-round finishes. I mean, the guy's only been out of the first round 5 times, I think, now. So I think, to me, this fight reminds me a lot of the Malarkey Prado fight from weeks ago, where it's like Prado could catch him early, but Malarkey's got a clear grappling edge, clear durability edge, even though he is a bit hittable. So yeah, I think Loik has a clear grappling edge. I think it's fine in the stand-up as well. Just for me, short notice nature, I wouldn't touch the price for myself.
I hear you. Yeah, man, I'm a little afraid of that short notice debut as well. However, the level of competition difference is something that I've got a hard time ignoring. The fact that Loik has fought the people that he has, the fact that he's gone, a full hard 5 rounds before with guys that are power punchers. This is really going to give us an idea of what the PFL is versus the UFC, right? Like, I know it was a couple years ago that he fought in the PFL, but still, Raush Manfio is a guy that's still, contending for that $1 million annually in the PFL. So this is going to give us a real idea of what the level in competition is between the two organizations. I think I have to kind of pick Loik in this spot. And frankly, man, I want to bet an under. I would love to bet violence in this spot just because the way Esteban fights. A higher caliber fighter, someone with more experience, probably can expose him, especially if he's starting too fast, doesn't manage his gas tank. And even though Loik has been extremely durable in his fights so far, the short notice nature, you got to wonder, he's not a guy that's had easy weight cuts in the past. He was fighting in Eagle FC's 165-pound division, a la Kevin Lee. So, like, he might not do well cutting that extra 10 pounds of weight off on short notice. So I'm going to be watching the Saturday or the Friday weigh-ins very closely for this one. For the sake of the show, I'm going to pick Loik. And I might be looking at betting an under, but I don't think I'm going anywhere with a money line on this one.
Yeah, I don't hate the undershot.
All right. Hey, shout out Matthew in the chat. Him and the wife watching live. I love it. The family that caps together stays together, Matt. Appreciate you and your lady friend watching the show. Thank you all for the support. Let's move right along. Second fight of the night. We've got Farid Basharat taking on Damon Blackshear. Now, Farid, you may recognize as the little brother for Javid Basharat. The Bash Bros are taking over the UFC, Danny. I love these guys. They're what we thought the Koski brothers might be. They're legit. I love the Basharat Bros. They're incredible. So making his Dana White Contender Series turnaround here, UFC debut. And he really is just like his older brother. Like this, the Basharat Bros fight very similarly. Tall, lanky, they're effective at range. They've got that stiff jab, snapping kicks. They've got the range control, man. They slide just out of range of their opponent's strikes and they counter extremely well. It might just be me, but I feel like Farid is just a little bit meaner than Javid is. He seems to have that younger brother, I got beat up and bullied by older bro mentality. He goes in there looking a little bit more for the finish. He targets the body with these digging hooks. I love the way he does that. And his top position is nasty. He has active ground and pound, very strong in control positions, and he just doesn't let his opponents off the hook. Now, Damon Blackshear, I was actually really excited about Damon. When he made his UFC debut against Zalal, I got lucky. I bet that man against Zalal, and I got out of there somehow with a draw. I thought he was going to get TKO'd in that third round. This man had nothing left to give, and we were lucky he got the second round because that was relatively competitive also. So I could have taken an L there on that one, but he's training at Jackson Wink MMA. Cross-training, it looks like a little bit over at Extreme Couture, which I like to see because I don't know about you, Danny, but for me, Jackson Wink MMA is kind of a fade at this point. They just don't seem to have the stable that they used to. The gym has really fallen off. So I'm not overly impressed, but I like this kid's grappling. He's a BJJ black belt. He really has some slick takes to get to the back. He is a little bit submission over position, which you hate to see. He'll kind of fall off his opponents. He'll make mistakes. He'll leave opportunities. He'll accept bottom position because he's confident that he can, sub or sweep from his back. And we know that's just not a winning recipe in mixed martial arts these days. He does have a great backpack. He is good when he causes scrambles, and he's got a tight squeeze. I mean, he does have 0% takedown defense on the notes if you take a look at it, but that's only because the law went 1 for 1. It's the only takedown he's faced in the UFC, so can't really rely too hard on that. Man, he's tough to put away, though. Only losses are by decision, and even that is the law one. He did hang on for the decision. Blackshear will have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot, and I just can't get my head around the minus 500 on Farid. I think he wins the fight. The UFC looks like they're trying to prop him up with a winnable spot here over somebody who kind of failed to impress his last time out. But the line just feels a little wide to me, man. How do you feel about this fight?
We talked a little bit about the Garry fight a little bit, and that to me that this fight kind of seems a little bit like that. Like the odds makers aligned it, like we had minus 450 the opener on this fight. I mean, I think this is a good spot for Basharat. Solid measured striker, does solid attritional work, good body work, good leg kicks, and like you mentioned, has a solid top game as well once he gets the fight to the mat. So, I mean, I think the only way Blackshear would be able to compete in the fight is be able to out wrestle Basharat, and so to me, I just don't see it. So, and again, I'm not looking to lay this price tag. It's just in a pass spot for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, man. I'm picking Basharat to go ahead and win this fight. Now, for those of you paying attention, I've kind of abandoned the Dana White Contender Series fade angle for a little bit. I talked about it at the beginning of the year. I said I felt like the matchmakers were going to take notice that all of their Dana White's Contender Series kids were taking L's, and they would probably adjust, and it wouldn't be as profitable going forward because they want those kids to win. That's kind of the whole point, and they're matchmaking them accordingly. So these are the type of spots where you're getting a big, fat, juicy plus number, and maybe you would be able to pull that off, and it makes sense. But man, Zalal's not in the UFC anymore. So Blackshear taking that kind of an L to him, it doesn't speak much to what he's done in the UFC or his level of competition. And if he can't out-grapple Basharat, which I don't think he can, that's really his only path to victory in this spot. And frankly, the way we saw him with Zalal last fight, I wouldn't hate a round 3 sprinkle because it looks like he gets tired when you push the issue with him. I actually think that Farid can finish here.
So the only thing I will push back on slightly there is that Zalal fight was short notice for him. So
yeah, that's true.
That's fair. But yeah.
No, that's a very good point, because if his cardio is any better coming into this fight, then maybe we have a different story. I still think at some point he's going to end up on his back, though. I still have a feeling that he's going to accept that bottom position, play a little jiu-jitsu, and Farid's going to be on top of him. And whether he wins by decision or if he ends up pounding him out at that point, like, he's still going to end up just getting the win.
Yeah, and FanDuel usually has those good round 3 decision combos. It's probably not a bad way to target it if you want some action on the fight.
That's true. I don't mind that. I don't mind that one bit. So, all right, we're going chalky to start. That's the minus 500 favorite pick there for you. Folks, believe it or not, I know everybody's all excited about Gane versus Jones, the return of John Jones. The king is back. You've got Shevchenko in the co-main event. Folks, it's ladies' night. UFC 285 is ladies' night. There's some fantastic WMMA fights this week, and I'm excited to break down Jessica Penne taking on Tabatha Ricci. They call her Baby Shark. Gotta love it. Tabatha's 7-1. She's just 2-1 in the UFC, but she dropped her debut. She did that, the UFC gang jumping in thing. She took on Manon Fior up a weight class in her UFC debut. Okay, I'll give you a pass there, kid. Like, she is awesome, man. Tabatha Ricci, it looks like her striking is coming a long way. She's short. She's muscular. She's this little tank that has relentless offensive grappling. She puts her head down when she jabs her way in, which I think someone with a little bit slicker striking and more power might be able to take advantage of. I don't think that's something Penne is going to necessarily take advantage of, but she's got great offensive grappling, 3.95 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 45% accuracy. So she just is all over her opponents anytime she decides to go to that. And like I said, she's at that age where she's young, she's improving. We're going to expect her to get better, especially closing the gap when it comes to her striking versus her grappling. Jessica Penne, 14-6. She is now 39. Sorry, she's 40 years old. She hit that 40 mark, folks. We always talk about it every fight. That's the magic number, the big 4-0. When you hit 40 years old, the decline comes hard and it comes fast. Now, there are some legendary fighters like Glover who just ignore it. They go toe-to-toe with Father Time and somehow manage to push him back just a step. But not everybody is that legendary caliber fighter. Once you hit 39, 40 years old, it's just the cliff comes, and it comes in a hurry. Jessica Penne is tall, she is long, she's lanky, and she does a real good job with her jab. But she's slow on the reload, and that's something that I've tried to take advantage of a lot recently, especially in women's MMA, is when you're slow on the reload, these quicker, nimble little fighters, they can get inside your range, they can get you with punches, flurries, takedowns, whatever they want, because your arms just frankly aren't there anymore. Now, the one thing Jessica Penne does really well is her clinch. Her Muay Thai clinch is deadly. She's got big, powerful knees. She can hang on people. The Muay Thai plum, that's really her best weapon. She's got decent BJJ, but the wrestling isn't really there to match. So she's always got to play off her back. She's got to scramble, take somebody's back, something like that. Her submission defense is solid when she does get on the ground. The one sub loss was to Michelle Watterson, and that was deep in the fight. Like, we're talking 4th round of a 5-round title fight type of submission loss. Hard to hate on her too badly for that, and it was years ago. But she's got a 40% takedown defense, even though she's got that 6-inch reach advantage. Danny, I think this one is, don't overthink it. Tabatha Ricci's being in a spot, put in a spot where she's supposed to win this fight. And I think she will win the fight, whether it's by decision or potentially, there's like that outside shot that she gets like a ground and pound TKO late in this fight after just exhausting Jessica Penne, if she can keep her foot on the gas for a full 15 minutes. But I'm kind of leaning decision. Baby Shark gets it done. What do you think here, man?
What I will say is, I mean, this is a fight that's been rebooked, and when this line was first out, I'm pretty sure Ricci was around that -175, -180 range, and I think she closed around that 2-1 before the fight ended up being canceled. And now we're seeing Ricci as like near a 3-1 favorite. So a little bit of queasy, just because to me, like the stand up here is close, and you're basically banking on Ricci just to out wrestle her for 15 minutes. So I think if you're playing Ricci, I think Ricci decision. I think it's -145 would be the look. But again, just I know people aren't going to like me saying pass for a lot of these early fights, but I think it's chalk city for a lot of these early spots, and I just don't think there's a ton of value for it for me.
It's parlay lover's dream this week if you want to ride the chalk in some of these spots. And man, can we just for a second, I just want to tangent and vent for a second, because last week there were three fights that got pulled off the card. And this one is exactly like that, where the bookmakers are this close to losing their asses, and then the fight gets yoinked and they bring it back and the line is worse. And I got boned by 2 out of the 3 last week, man. I felt like I was on the right side. I felt like I had good value, and I'm just going to have to accept the fact that those lines are going to be much, much worse for me the next time those fights get booked. And I'm very upset about that, Danny. Very upset about not being able to cash in on Jalin Perez.
Funny enough, you say that. You know how I always do those like 4-leg parlays pretty much every week? So two of those legs, one of them was the Armfield Johnson under 2.5 rounds. So obviously that got voided. And then the other one was the Span fight to not start round 4. So that got voided. But then obviously the other 2 legs were the under 1.5 in the Peak fight, and then the under 2.5 in the Lioness fight. So yeah, you hate to see canceled fights. I know.
I anchored everything on that main event under 2.5, the alternate, or I went under 3.5. I think I had like Trevor Peak parlayed up with it. All my degenerate parlays, I anchored them on the under 3.5. Like that fight wasn't going past, a round and a half for sure. I felt real good about that, and had to take the lower grade paydays on all of them. I mean, at least I'll take the cash. That's what I'm talking about. Can't be greedy. Shouldn't complain. It was a winning night. We'll take it.
But the under 1.5 now, when they rebook that, it's going to be like -185 or something like that, because everybody was steaming that. I know for sure.
It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be absolutely disgusting. Shout out my guy Dumpy in the chat saying NHL daddy. You came to the right place, Dumpy. The NHL degenerate action tonight, folks. We're going Red Wings Senators under 6.5. That's -115. Stars Canucks over 6, -120. Ducks Hawks over 6, -120. So we're laying a little bit of chalk on both those. And then we're going to rock with the Vegas Golden Knights. 4 plays on the NHL DGen action slate tonight for anybody who wants to roll along. Hey, we got 150 live viewers already, folks. We're talking UFC 285 here on Pub Sports Radio. I am joined by my guy Danny from the Club and Sub podcast. And of course, the lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports. Make sure you follow Club and Sub. Make sure you follow Danny on Twitter. And we're going to keep on rocking on this show. We got a lot to get through here. Next up, Mana Martinez taking on Cameron Saaiman. And Cameron Saaiman has really kind of taken everybody by storm, man. This is that kid from the Contender Series that looks like he's too young to compete. He really looks like he just should not be in the UFC yet. 22 freaking years old, 7-0, undefeated. Looks fantastic. I mean, he won his UFC debut off the Contender Series. Very aggressive grappler, sneaky in scrambles. But man, he kind of loses his position attacking sometimes. He's a kid. He's 22 years old. And I've talked about this a couple times the last couple weeks, and I've looked like a freaking idiot because all of them just keep on winning. But these 21, 22, 23-year-old kids, some of them just aren't ready for this level yet, man. We're going to see that. Like, as the UFC gets younger, some of these people that have the experience are going to beat some of these kids when they're big, juiced up favorites. I mean, I've seen this guy give up his back multiple times in scrambles, and he's just too damn confident. He just knows and believes that he can explode out of those positions. Somebody's going to make him pay for that. He's going to learn that lesson eventually, unless he fixes it in training camp. Now, he's super active with the ground and pound. He's got big power clinch knees, great cardio. You know, he's one of these kids that pushes a pace deep into the 3rd round. So if you can't keep up with him, you're pretty much dead. He does have a 40% takedown defense. It's a small sample size, obviously, coming off the Contender Series in his UFC debut. But he was actually matched up with Ronnie Lawrence for this fight, Danny. And that has me really greasing the old wheel here on the head. Like, because I'm going, why would the UFC match up hot as balls 7-0 Cameron Saaiman with Ronnie Lawrence in his next fight. Like, that almost screams to me that they're trying to get Lawrence back on track with a win. They've, a kid that's hot shit coming off a huge win. Everybody loves him, but he can't defend a takedown to save his life. Put him up against the wrestler. We need to pump this kid back up. That kind of how it like smells to me just a little bit here. But he's got a short notice replacement fighter instead, Manny Martinez, 10-3. He is from the Dana White Contender Series class of 2020. In like 6 months, every single fighter on the roster, we can just stop saying they're from the Contender Series because they're going to take the entire roster over here pretty quick. He's a Glory MMA victim, man. And I say that because he lost his coach. He was kind of a lost, wandering fighter for a bit there, found a home at Glory MMA, and the poor kid's got to go back on the road. Now he's got to go find a new place, a new coach. Like, you got to wonder just how good his training is at this point. You got to wonder how comfortable he is with his team at this point, like having to be uprooted and moved a second time right after he just started to get the ball rolling. Martinez is 2-1 so far in the UFC, both wins by split. One of those over Brandon Davis, who frankly always loses by split. So everybody just should have hammered the split decision prop on that fight. His best defense is a good offense, tries to fight long. He's got big, strong body kicks, but he's low volume. He's super low volume and really relies on his power. He relies on his counters. If he doesn't drop somebody to like steal around, he's probably just not going to win the round. He does have sneaky, opportunistic BJJ. That's something I want to kind of point out. We know him as a knockout guy. As a pro, he's got 8 knockouts on his record. But if you go back to his regional scene, the amateur record, he's got 3 round 1 arm bars. Like, this guy's a little sneakier on the ground than people give him credit for. But he's got a 27% takedown defense. Danny, they found somebody with worse takedown defense than Cameron Saaiman here in this fight. He will have a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot. But, man, this is one of those spots where I really don't want to bet Manny Martinez. I'll say that. I don't want to. But shit, like the mistakes I've seen from Cameron Saaiman, they might get a sub prop out of me on Manny Martinez, Danny, because he could catch this kid in one of these scrambles. I don't know that he's going to be winning moments on the feet. I know Cameron Saaiman has got the better gas tank. So if this thing goes the distance, he's going to be the one pushing the pace. He's going to be the one scoring the points. But I could just see this young kid getting caught in this kind of a fight against a dangerous finisher who's been around the block once or twice. You know what I mean? That's kind of his path here. So maybe violence. Under wouldn't be a half bad look in my opinion in this spot. We've seen Manny Martinez hurt and rocked and injured, and Saaiman is always looking for the kill. So maybe violence here in this spot, but I want to look at that sub number when it drops, Danny. What do you make of this fight?
So kind of similar to what we talked about with the last one with the round 3 decision prop. I kind of think Cameron more or less is going to, I think he has him covered on the feet. I think in terms of the grappling, I think he does have a slight grappling edge, but again, kind of what you talked about, he's a little bit more submission over position in some of the grappling transitions, as well as in the stand-up, he's a bit hittable. But again, kind of like the theme of this card, I think the favorite probably does win, but it's just a spot like it's a young kid. Are you trying to lay minus 300 on him? Not really. I know people aren't going to like the pass spot, but it's another pass spot for me.
It's tough. And folks, I know we are doing a betting show. We're going to give our picks.
Right.
We're going to break these fights down as best as we can for you. But I don't say this often enough, and I'm going to take the opportunity on this big pay-per-view card. Bankroll management is extremely important. Just because there's a fight on doesn't mean you have to bet it. Don't go out there losing your ass on fights that you don't feel great about. There's going to be some spots, especially on this card, where passing and going and grabbing a drink, fireball and popcorn, baby, like that might be the best option for you in some of these spots to make sure you don't ruin your bankroll, because I did that last year and I'm currently trying to rebuild it. I promise you it's not fun.
Because some people think like it's a pay-per-view and it's like, 14 fights, I can have, 10 bets, something like that. It's like, why not just have 3 bets that you love, that are really good, great spots, make, 3-4 units on the card, walk home with it. You don't need to have a 10-unit night. You're not trying to win that bankroll every night, but you can lose a bankroll in a night.
Exactly. Some nights you can win a bankroll. Some nights you load up the machine gun and you rapid fire. Other nights you got to tighten it up a little bit. And this one might be one of those. Real quick, I want to shout out my guy Ty G in the chat saying, Clint, have to give you a huge shout out for last week's Allen versus Muniz fight. I made $943 off of Allen, took him money line and the round 3 sub sprinkle. Huge thanks, bro. Ty, that means the world to me, bro. I'm so happy you got there. I actually am really upset with myself on that one because I called that fight to a T on the Monday show, and then I kind of got a little bit of cold feet. And believe it or not, this is where Twitter kind of becomes a little bit of a negative thing. I saw everybody else betting Allen, and I was like,
I heard you talking
I
about
was
that.
like,
I know
wait a
you're like,
second.
I don't want to be on the public dog. Yeah, I
exactly, man. I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I'm sharp as shit here going in on Allen, but then I see everybody on Allen. I'm like, oh God. Like, so I kind of pumped the brakes a little bit. I ended up passing. Like, I didn't lose money flipping sides and betting on Muniz or anything like that, but I could have stacked on Allen, and I was going to. I hesitated for just one day too long and saw too many things on Twitter, and it cost me. But Ty, I'm glad to hear that you got it. And you know what? I just hope there's people out there who didn't parlay Muniz, because at the end of the week, that was my message, was like, even if you don't bet Allen, that's fine. Don't parlay Muniz. So I hope I saved a couple people a few shekels, going that route.
I leaned the over 1.5 there. Just couldn't get to the window myself just because I thought it's just one of those blood pressure overs that's just like, I'm all right.
I thought we were going 15 at that point. So anybody
over
that got the doesn't go the distance.
Yeah, true.
Might have gotten a little lucky there at the end, but crazy fight. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was a good one to watch. All right. Shout out Jacqueline. Shout out Bet with Jay. What's going on, everybody? If you could, like we said a couple times already, help us out. Hit the like button. Let's keep this train rolling. Ian Garry taking on Song Kenan. And it's been a while since we've seen Song, man. This guy has been MIA since he got absolutely flatlined by Max Griffin. And when I say flatlined, I mean like face planted. Like, bro, he didn't move. Like, this guy was out cold from that shot. That was in 2021. Believe it or not, he's only 32 years old. But man, he seems like a relic to me. Like, you look at the names on his record. He made his UFC debut against Bobby Nash. Like, this guy is from an era of MMA that doesn't exist anymore, but somehow he's only 32 years old. Really odd, because I almost feel like he's shot, but he's still young enough that like he could make improvements and come back a better fighter for all we know. Now, he looks slow to me, man. Big, hulking, plodding. He keeps heavy on his feet, marches his way forward. He does have some stabbing front kicks I like to see. He attacks the body, and he's got power. Like, if he connects with you, this guy has some serious knockout power in his hands. Now, Ian Garry, he's training over at Killcliff FC's, the UFC's shiny new toy, man. The UFC, I need to open my mouth when I say that. UFC's shiny new toy. 10-0, undefeated. He attacks that low calf. He's got great lateral movement. He's always on his bike. He's got good balance when people try to take him down. He can defend that if he wants to. And he really sets up his shots well. He gets you following him. He gets you chasing him. And then he sits down and he plants on one of those big shots and comes back. He's got a dangerous check left hook. He fishes well for underhooks. He's hard to take down even up against the cage if he backs himself up into that position, because sometimes he does do that. He's actually got a pretty strong body lock himself, and he's got an underrated grappling game. Danny, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this since Ian Garry got to the UFC. We haven't seen it yet because he's just this slick striker on the feet, and he's fallen in love with his hands, and why not? He's knocking people out left and right. But if you've watched this guy's regional footage, he is such a good grappler. He's got such slick wrestling. He's got slick jiu-jitsu. He's got dangerous chokes and tight squeezes. We just haven't had the opportunity to see it yet under the big lights. And frankly, against a guy like Song Kenan, this might be the time. This man just got married, and he took his wife's name. He is now Ian Machado Garry. And if any of you remember from a couple weeks ago, I told you my professor, my coach for jiu-jitsu is from the Machado legacy. There's the Gracies and there's the Machado brothers. Those are the two big schools in jiu-jitsu. This guy took the Machado last name. I think he's going to show off some grappling, Danny. I think he's going to go for a sub this fight, because why would you want to stand and bang with a guy like Song Kenan? Now, maybe he goes out there and he rolls the dice and he does what he does, because he will have a speed advantage. He absolutely will in this fight. He's got a 75% takedown defense, 3-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. I mean, it's Ian Garry all day. This line is steaming his direction. This is a smash spot. He's absolutely supposed to get a highlight reel. But I got a feeling maybe he mixes in the grappling. I think we might get a club and sub. I think Ian might show off the fact that he can wrestle a little bit, take the path of least resistance. Again, I'm going to look for that submission number, or at the very least, instead of playing, knockout, plus 110. I'm going to take inside the distance at minus 110 because I'm just saying it's a threat. It's real. It's there. And one of these days, Garry's going to show up and choke somebody out and everyone on the knockout is going to cry. I'm telling you, it's coming. Danny, what are you doing on this fight?
Yeah, like we talked about, like it's minus 650 on the money line. Like can't really attack it from that angle. I mean, there's no real. So basically, you're banking on whether or not Garry gets a finish or not. And I think to me, it's whether or not Saaiman is reckless really with pursuing Garry, because Gary's fine with just pot shotting from the outside, leg kicks, landing good strikes from the outside. Again, like you touched on, not really mixing in the grappling upside. Like he's fine just picking you apart for 15 minutes. And he is much faster, and the durability is definitely a concern on the Song side. So he could definitely find a finish. I'm just not confident either way.
I hear you. Okay, that is fair enough, man. That is fair. And most of the chat is, on this with the Garry 1 KO. Aiden Simone agreeing with me here on the Garry sub. Like I said, I like it. Oh, and Mushroom shouting out that he's from the Gracie Gym in Philly, which, frankly, I guess I need to change my pick and hate him for that. What's going on? None. Yeah, we got Nope's Corner in the chat. How you doing, buddy? Good to see everybody. And one more time, I got to take just a quick second out of this because Helder says hello from Brazil. I've always watched the show. Keep up the good job, son of Big Ben Rothwell. You best believe it, Helder. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always love hearing people from around the world listening to the show. It's super humbling. Gotta love it. Thank you all so much for the support. Speaking of support, I do have to give a shout out to my guy, Michael Lunday. I have not talked about him in a couple weeks, and he just is like the OG fan of the podcast, always sends me like these little notes and these little messages and a tip every now and again, keeping me up when I'm losing and complimenting me on when I'm winning and looking forward to the show. And yeah, Michael, you have no idea how awesome you've been for me. So you deserve the shout out, my friend. Thank you again, as always. All right, everybody. Moving along, we have got Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez, taking on Marc-André Barriault. And I will stand by the fact that Julian Marquez forever will be top 5 as far as fight name goes. I mean, it's hard to beat the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's such a good fight name. But he also, for being as great as he is for having that kind of a name, is still maybe the number 1 for fumblest bag in UFC history because he pushed it too hard when he was going for the Cuban Missile Crisis tattoo. The man he was this close, man. He was this close. He could have smashed it, came in like a wrecking ball, and he lost it, and I'll never get over it. Anyway, Julian Marquez is 9-3, man. Class 2017 Dana White's Contender Series. He's all offense and durability. Like this, he doesn't really have defense. He's just durable as shit and like marches forward and breaks you before you break. But it almost feels to me like his durability is fading. He's another Kraus, I guess, what do we call them at this point? Refugee?
Pupil? Oh, yeah, refugee. Yeah, that's a good one.
Because he's been transplanted to a new gym. Yeah. But from what I understand, shout out our guy, James Lynch, he's moved over to Factory X, which I'm like, that's a good move. Factory X has been on a bit of a roll right now, and I feel like he's got the type of style that they can work with. So I think I'm going to like Factory X, Julian Marquez. He's also always got that club and sub opportunity. He likes to hit people really hard, and when they decide to grapple, they forget he's got some sneaky-ass chokes and some slick grappling on him. He's actually got really strong hips when he decides to defend takedowns, but a lot of times he'll jump the ghillie, he'll pull guillotine, and put himself on bottom and then have to work his way back up. The other thing with Julian Marquez is he doesn't stop. Like, I need to know what his diet plan is because he's got energy for days. He is dangerous all the way up until the 3rd round. You go back to the Maki Pitolo fight, it took a Hail Mary 3rd round club and sub for him to get the win, but he did it. He was getting grinded out by Maki, something that is not a good look in hindsight, but he got the win because his gas tank was better than Maki's and he just stayed in it. You can't ever really count this guy out. 53% takedown defense, not great. Marc-André Barriault is almost the yin to the yang of Julian Marquez. He's like the polar opposite, man. He's a grinder. He's slow. He's steady. He marches forward. He pins you up against the fence. He'll grind you against the cage. He'll take you down and he'll just beat you up for 15 minutes. He's all defense. Like, he's all defense and durability as opposed to the offense and durability of Julian Marquez. this is a spot where, man, I'm looking Marc-André Barriault's way. I think he should be able to just kind of march forward and decisionate Julian Marquez. I know a lot of people are talking under in this fight. I frankly do not understand that, because Marc-André Barriault, besides the one guillotine choke that he got, doesn't finish shit. He doesn't finish anybody. And even though Julian Marquez is a finisher, he's been tough to finish himself, and Barriault's been almost impossible to finish. I think this is an over fight, Danny. What do you got going here?
So we talked about this right before the pod. This is my first play of the card, and I'm on Marc-André Barriault money line. To me, I mean, Marquez basically has to kind of have a cheaty game plan really here. Like if he doesn't knock him out early in this fight, he's not out grappling Marc-André Barriault. He's not a good wrestler. And is he out striking Barriault? I don't buy that at all. To me, Barriault, like you mentioned, he's the grinder. I mean, he's a guy who will put it on you for 15 minutes. I don't buy Marquez really guillotining him either here. So I like MAB in a good spot here. Obviously there's some concern, in the early couple minutes there, but once he gets out of those first couple minutes, I think it's a good spot. And like you had mentioned with the overs, I was actually just looking. They have the over 1.5 is -130, the over 2.5 +155, and then they have the goes the distance at +240. So
plus numbers on Marc-André Barriault to go the distance. I never thought I'd see the day, man.
Yep. But yeah,
and I mean,
Marc-André Barriault money line, love it.
You don't even have to pick a side at that point, though. Just the plus money on the over or goes the distance. And God, if he loses a split or something like that, I don't care. That's fine. I just know Marc-André can make it 15.
Yeah, to me, I think if this goes 15, I don't see Marquez winning a decision. Like I think Marquez is finish or bust, not just because of obviously he is 100% finish rate. I just think stylistically with MAB as well, it's like if this goes 15, I think MAB definitely outworks him.
That's fair. That's fair. I am on the MAB side myself. Haven't locked the bet in yet. Folks, I haven't bet anything yet this card. I've actually been a little rushed this week. The card is long, and I was about to wrap up my tape study, Danny, and then that first fight of the night got put together at the very last second. So when I was about to sit down and make some bets, I had to hit the reset button and start studying again so I could talk to you about Loik. So I haven't locked in any bets yet, but I'm looking at being on the Barriault side, and I need to do it sooner than later if I'm gonna, because that line is moving, and then I'm going to be on that over. Regardless of whether or not I lock in the money line, I'm going to play the over.
Love to hear it.
All right, folks, here we go. Next up. Whoa, I lost my place there for a second. I almost put the wrong slide up. I'm not goofing on the slides today, folks. That day is come and gone. We're over. No more of that shit. Next up, we've got Vivi Araujo taking on Amanda Ribas. Some Brazil on Brazil action here. Man, I told you it's ladies' night. This is a spectacular fight. This is such a good fight. I am pumped. We got Vivi 11-4 taking on Ribas 10-3. And every single time she fights, Danny, I will always tell everybody, Ribas can have whatever she wants. It's that smile, man. It's the smile. She is so relentlessly adorable. I would hand over the deed to my house if she just asked and smiled afterward, because she's too bubbly. I can't take it.
I'll be honest with you. I thought you were going to say the Araujo and the cardio angle. But it's funny that you mentioned that. That's funny.
No, she has the
That's good.
Her and was it Wu Yanan? Like there's maybe it's Wu or maybe it's Zhang. There's one of the Chinese fighters that is like super perky smiley all the time, and I just can't handle it. I love it when they come with that attitude.
Is it Ji Young Kim?
Oh, you know what? It is Ji Young Kim. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, broken that fight down enough times. I should have remembered it was Ji Young Kim. Okay, so you've got Vivi, who is big and muscly, strong wrestling, powerful offensive grappling, BJJ black belt. Like, she is the exact opposite again of Amanda Ribas, who is more like a whippet. She's tall and skinny and lanky. She's put some muscle on, though, because it looks like she's sticking around up at 125. Poor Amanda did get chuked in her last fight. I tried to tell y'all. If it's going to be a 15-minute kickboxing match, it's death, taxes, and Chookagian by decision. The line doesn't matter. The script doesn't matter. Chookagian doesn't lose those fights. Ever.
I was on Chook, too.
I was on Chook. And like when it came down to the decision and everybody cried robbery for Ribas, I was like,
I thought it was a close fight.
Told you.
But yeah.
Regardless of how you scored that fight, it's Chook. It's always juke. Anyway, I'm just messing. So she has some really herky-jerky striking, man. I got to be honest. It's not super pleasant to look at, but I'm sure it's very difficult to deal with in the cage. Lots of feints, lots of footwork. She throws spinning attacks, which I'm not super high on, but she makes her opponent miss a lot. She's got a 70% striking defense, which is really solid. And I'm sure, again, very frustrating. She does like her head and arm throw, which I think is just a relic of women's MMA. She kind of needs to let that go. But she's another one of these grapplers who's high level and believes she can reverse or get on top or make the position work for her, even if she ends up in a bad spot, giving up her back like that. You just don't want to do that at the high level. It worked on Chookagian because she's basically a wet noodle. She's not as strong as some of these other women are. That's not going to work against Vivi. Vivi, on the other hand, like I said, she's more of a tank. She's your power wrestler. She's going to come forward. She's going to double leg. She's got heavy hands, man, a super hard jab. She's got a clubbing right. She kind of reminds me of Peak, where she'll throw it like a hammer when she comes at you sometimes. She's just looking to hurt you, man. You go back and you look at her fight with Grasso. That was a close competitive fight, and it was like volume and slick striking versus the damage of Vivi. Grasso got her hand raised, but you could make an argument for Araujo in that fight, man. She had Grasso's head all lumped up. I mean, we're talking like multiple knots the size of golf balls on Grasso's head at the end of that fight. Araujo is also, both these women actually are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. I love the top position from Vivi. She's got that strong, intense shoulder pressure. And frankly, man, I think she's built for 15 minutes. In the fight with Grasso, she really slowed down. She failed on a couple of takedown attempts, and then she abandoned it because she knew her cardio couldn't really hold up for the 25 minutes if she was going to try to force the grappling on somebody with good takedown defense. She's not going to have that problem in this fight. You've got Amanda Ribas, who has an 88% takedown defense. But, bro, okay, give me just 1 second. I need to pull this up. I have to pull up her record here so we can talk about it, because her takedown defense numbers are, I'm going to call it straight up fraudulent. 88% takedown defense is fantastic, but look at who she's fought. Caitlin Chookagian, Verna Jandiroba, Marina Rodriguez, Paige Van Zandt, Randa Marcos, Mackenzie Dern, Emily Whitmire. Those chicks don't shoot takedowns. And even if they do, they're bad at it. Like, Randa Marcos is maybe the best one in the bunch as far as offensive takedowns goes. That's disrespectful. Verna's going to be the one that, sorry. So Verna probably takes the cake there. But besides that, Marina's never shooting a takedown. Caitlin didn't shoot a takedown in their fight. Paige Van Zandt is, selling feet picks these days. Mackenzie Dern relies on people falling into her guard. That's a terrible run of fighters to get her prepped up for somebody like this. And on top of that, man, she's up a weight class. I think that's such a massive factor in this fight, is people forget that she is lanky and she's built for 115 pounds. She might be more durable up at this weight class, but Ribas has always struggled with damaging power shots. She does not react well when people hit her hard. And that Marina Rodriguez, man, that might be like my women's MMA crowning achievement, calling the knockout for Marina Rodriguez in that spot, because I could just feel it coming, the way that she reacts to getting hit by big power shots. I knew somebody with solid power was going to clip her and put her down. I'm not a fan of Vivi being 36 years old, but I just think she's a bad matchup for Amanda, man. And I think she's too big. I'm kind of surprised to see that she is the plus money underdog here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to be looking at the Vivi side of this fight. What are you doing here?
I mentioned the cardio narrative a little bit. I don't think it's a ton, obviously, to mention in the 3-round nature. Also, because I just think if it's only that bad if she goes to like a heavy grappling attack like she did. Really, I don't think it's that bad in my opinion. So, getting back to like where the line's at, Pick'em. I think the Pick'em line kind of makes sense in my opinion. I know you want to talk about the size discrepancy between the two, but I think for it to not be a pick'em, Araujo has to easily be able to land said takedowns. I think on the feet, it's pretty close. And like, I know you mentioned the Ribas' takedown defense is like 88%, a little fraudulent, this and that. I think she held up pretty well against Verna, who I would rate as a very high level women's wrestler. So I think pick'em to me, again, like, I think the margins are going to be very thin, but I understand the Araujo bets because of the potential top time. So,
hey, that's enough for me, man. I will take it. And frankly, the other part of that, though, is damage. Recently we got to talk about the judging criteria. It's damage over everything. And I mean everything. Like, you can be losing 4.5 minutes of a fight, but you land one good shot and the judges are going to give it to you these days. The lumps on Grosso's head. I know I said it. I know I said it already, but man, that kind of damaging power strike shot, that's far more than anything that Amanda is going to be capable of putting on Vivi. Vivi's one of these Brazilians where, I mean, her skin is like Brazilian steak, man. You would take a knife to cut through that stuff. She doesn't wear damage. Whereas on the other hand, Amanda is a little bit more, susceptible to bleeding. And I actually think that you're going to get more damaging punches from Vivi. I think she's got the wrestling and the control time angle for it. And when she lands, I think it's going to be an optics thing. I think Ribas is going to react poorly to the big shots from Araujo. So whether it's a decision or, again, maybe I sprinkle that KO, baby. I think the wrong fighter's favored here. I'm going to be looking at the Vivi side of things.
It looks like I was looking at Bet Online now. They have Vivi KOs 4-1.
That's it? See, that's sus right there. Why is it only 4-1, Danny? That number should be better than 4-1. Damn.
It looks like actually money's coming in on the Ribas KO, which I think opened pretty high, but it's down to 16-1.
Interesting. Okay, now see 16-1. Obviously you're going to get a couple nibbles there at 16-1.
Right.
I was hoping for like a 7-1 or something because she's the wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, give me a sexy number here for the knockout.
Yep, I got you.
I will make do. Maybe it's a coin that I don't need to flip. Like I said, I have not bet this thing yet, folks. So, we're talking about it. We're breaking down every fight for your entertainment here. Have not made a bet just yet. So while I'm pretty comfortable on the Araujo side, haven't put my money on it. You got to give me a follow on social media. Every time I make a bet, I will tweet it or post it on Instagram and lock it in there. That's where you'll find my official action. Real quick, Danny, we're about halfway through the show. I got to shout out the sponsors real quick. So, of course, we got Pub Sports Radio. Come check out the free contests. I believe we had just shy of 50 runners last week. And I was, again, just this close to taking the damn thing down myself. I think Brady actually ended up one-upping me on last week's contest. But join that. Check out Superbook Sports if you will. And also make sure you check out Spectation Sports. They're doing regional scene MMA. Promo code DieHard for 20% off. They show all the regional shows and they do have betting and stuff like that. So you guys can gamble on some of the lower level organizations and gives us an edge. We knew all about Trevor Peake coming up because of them. Check out the Sharp app. You can join their Discord for free. I will have a link in the description down below. They're the one that got us on the over tonight in the Canucks game. That's officially from the Sharp Action Premium Discord. So make sure you check those out. And then one final one. We've got no house advantage, guys. It's a lot like Prize Picks. It's like a prop market for sports betting. Relatively new. I don't think I can actually put the referral code in the link on YouTube because we'll get in trouble for it for some unknown reason. Follow me on social media. I'll be posting it on both my Twitter and my Instagram if you want to jump in there. Like I said, it's exactly like Prize Picks. I've got a $100 deposit match code for you guys if you want to jump on and try it. They're going to be heavily focused on MMA moving forward. That'll do it. We've got 240 live viewers, everybody. Thank you all so much again for your time. Hit the like button and tell me what your favorite bet is. I want to know. I want to know what your favorite bet is. Next up, I should have photoshopped myself here. Missed opportunity to not have Clintus Duplessis in the slot here. So maybe I'm going to have to remember that for next time. Derek Brunson taking on Dricus. And I feel like this is going to maybe be the Civil War this week, Danny. There's always one. There's always one fight that Twitter just goes back and forth on. And I feel like maybe this one's it. Dricus, 18-2, is another one of these offense is the best defense type of fighters. He's super awkward on the feet. He's got crazy big power. He can generate a lot of force in a short amount of space. And he just goes through people, man. Whether it's offensive grappling, whether it's that long, stiff jab, he explodes into these big power crosses. And he does everything with muscle, everything with explosion. Grabs people, bodies them up into the air, slams them down to the cage. And then he's got a tight squeeze. Really underrated opportunistic grappling. Like if you get this man in even a semi-questionable spot, he will snatch a neck, he will snatch an arm. Like he is solid when it comes to the club and sub as well. You got to love the finishing upside from Dricus. Derek Brunson, on the other hand, 23-8. It looks like the run of blonde Brunson may have come to an end, man. He's 39 years old, and he's coming off getting wrecked by Jared Cannonier in that last fight. Now, to be fair, you go back and watch that fight, he had Cannonier in some serious trouble early in that fight. He rocked him, he dropped him, he had the rear naked choke locked up, and Cannonier really got saved by the bell in that spot. So we can't exactly count out Derek Brunson here. He's got fantastic wrestling. He's got decent cardio when he's the one in the driver's seat. If he can get on top of you and buy minutes on top of you, he can extend that cardio. But if you do like Cannonier did and refuse to let him hold you down, make him get up, make him work, make him shoot for extra takedowns, he's a bit of a gas bag. He will slow down, and he's not nearly durable enough to handle it when his cardio runs a little bit dry. I'm a little sketched out by this line here, Danny. I'll be honest with you. I agree with most of the favorites on this card. And I do agree that Dricus is more than capable of finishing Derek Brunson. He's had a couple chinks in the armor already. We've seen him finished many times. But Dricus, I'm not so sure he's the guy. Like, you look at that Till fight, and it took everything he had. And Darren Till had like a lump under his eye, but he was like taking a beating and thumbs upping the ref to let him know he was okay and still in that fight. And then he styled on this man in the second round. Like, Dricus emptied the tank, and he was nowhere near Till's level of striking in that second round. And it wasn't until, again, he pulled something out of his ass in the third round, clipped Till with a shot, dragged him to the mat, grabbed one of those opportunistic submissions that we're talking about, and got the tap. He was well on his way to losing that fight. Now he comes back against a guy in Brunson. He's got a 50% takedown defense rating. Simply put, I don't trust Dricus du Plessis. If you want to go inside the distance on him and think he finishes Brunson, you go for it. That's fine. But from a money line perspective, man, don't parlay this guy. This is this week's don't parlay that guy. I need to make like a segment with a theme song to go with it or some shit.
Yeah.
Because I can absolutely see Derek Brunson being the better wrestler here, staying safe, and because Dricus will look for jiu-jitsu off of his back and maybe not have the get-up game he needs to, Derek Brunson can keep this guy on the mat, grind him out, and maybe even potentially hurt or submit him, because we have seen Dricus in some questionable positions before. The big reason why I'm not going to load up and actually bet Derek Brunson, I think, is, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, I think after his last fight, he said, I've got one more. Like, I think he was on his title run.
Yeah.
And he said, give me one more fight, which means this is his retirement fight. If Derek Brunson is at all to be believed, I need to listen to the interviews coming up this week, because I will never bet a retiring fighter. If he's fully admitted to retiring coming into this fight, that means he's got one foot in the grave. That means he's not training as hard as he used to. That means he knows the end is coming. That means if he's got an opportunity to get out of the cage, he's not going to fight it as hard as he used to. He's not looking for gold around his waist. This is it. It's over. It just happens, man. These fighters don't give everything 100,000% the way they used to if they know they're hanging it up. So if this is Derek Brunson's retirement fight, you want nothing to do with him. So unfortunately, this is probably a pass for me. Maybe it's an under, but I'm not picking a side. I will pick Dricus, especially if Derek is retiring. If Derek is not retiring, then I think the dog is live. So I'm just picking everything on this fight, Danny. All bases are covered. I can no longer be wrong about Derek Brunson, Dricus du Plessis.
Well, no doubt about it. Derek Brunson is the better wrestler here. The question is, can he get the takedowns before he dies standing on the feet is really the question that we have to answer. And I really don't know, because to me, on the feet, Brunson's reactions to shots, when he's the nail, he's not. I mean, it was talked about a lot. I think Bisping was the one that kept bringing it up in that fight where against Cannonier, where it's just like he's on the feet. He just, and DC too, he just looked uncomfortable. He just uncomfortable standing. It's like, because you have a guy on the other side, Cannonier, big power shots, is able to stuff a little bit of the wrestling, get back to his feet and land those heavy shots. And I think that's kind of where we're at with Dricus. Like, I agree with you. He's very takedownable, controllable, whatever you want to call it. He has bad takedown defense. He has bad takedown defense. He has, in my opinion, he has bad cardio. I know he seems to fight through fatigue well, but he is huffing and puffing, mouth open. Again, that's talked about a lot on the broadcast as well. I don't think his cardio is that good. But to me, this is an under spot, because on the feet, both of these guys are defensively void. And I think if Brunson can get this fight to the mat, I think he can find a sub. I think he can ground and pound him on the mat. I think the under, even though it's minus 175, minus 180, I think it's a great spot to play.
Okay. I'd like that. I like that call. And man,
it looks like sorry, I will interject real quick. I think the widely available total, though, it looks like they're going to have is the over 1.5, which the over is minus 135. So just be on the aisle for alternate under 2.5s during the week.
Okay. Okay. I don't mind that. I don't mind that one bit. I feel my guy Dirty Reg in the chat so hard right now. I'm 0-3 trying to fade Dricus. I'm definitely not putting any money on the line. Feel free to pick Brunson and upset for me. Yeah, man, that's sometimes I've done that more times on this show than I can count. I'll pick a guy that I'm like, I'm gonna fade the shit out of him, and then they're just like a little bit better than you gave them credit for, so you fade them with the wrong people. This might be the right guy to fade Dricus du Plessis with, because Brunson's got a lot of advantages in this spot. I can absolutely see him pulling off the upset. Again, it's just the red flag of retirement.
And not to compare this like completely to that, but like that was kind of me with the Muniz and Allen fight. Like I don't think Muniz and Allen, either of them are that good. So it's like, I think Muniz has a little bit of wrestling upside, can get single legs probably easily. So it's just a matter of what happens after that, you know, if there's a finish or not. And obviously we saw there wasn't an early finish. So
yep. That's the way that it goes sometimes, man. And in this fight, like I said, folks, I'm right now, like I'm feeling myself. The reads have been good. The reads have been sharp. I've been solid the last couple of weeks, but there's spots like this because last year, what really got me into trouble was betting these aged fighters, Danny. It was betting these old ass busted fighters that keep coming in for one more time. And I saw all the advantages they had on tape. And I thought, you know what, this is, if they're even close to who they were, they're not who they were anymore. And that's where Brunson is a guy that should be able to beat Dricus. He's got every ability and opportunity to beat Dricus. But if he's got that one foot in the grave, he ain't going to do it. So I'm not going to take the bait on this one. And professional gamblers, you know, people that do this with much more money than I do would say that you just take the shot, you hold your nose and you hope it goes well because the line is wrong, that kind of thing. And I get that. I really do. But I'm trying to rebuild the bankroll at this point. I'm not rolling those dice on Derek Brunson, who could go to sleep with one big right hand at the beginning of this fight. All right, moving along. Speaking of going to sleep with one big right hand, you've got Cody Garbrandt taking on Trevin 5-Star Jones. And oh my God. So I don't have anything against Cody, you know, personally, Danny, but I've been such a hater for this guy, and I apologize. I really should apologize. I have no reason to hate on Cody the way that I do. I think it's because I've been so right about him. Like TJ was my favorite fighter, mostly because of the Garbrandt fights, mostly because he made me piles and piles of money fading the questionable chin, and it happened back-to-back fights. Like, I just was ecstatic about it. And then, of course, when you got like the Kai Kara France mashup, it was like, here we go again. Like, I just have been able to pick my spots fading Cody. And it's too fun to joke about the chin because I'm, you know, filling my pockets going against him. But he's so good. Like, this is one of those guys I'm talking about where it's sketchy and it's dangerous because on Cody's worst day in the UFC, he's a higher level fighter than Trevin Jones is. And I was sold wolf tickets on Trevin Jones, Danny. When he made his UFC debut, and especially his second fight where he got the knockout, I was like, oh shit, like this kid is for real. I thought he was Francis Ngannou at 135. Like, I was ready to go all in on Trevin Jones, and then he lost his next, 3 fights, and now I'm broke again. So I want to believe that Trevin Jones can get it done here, and he can, because he's got that raw power and ability to crack the chin of Cody Garbrandt. But if Cody comes out here with a smart game plan, if he keeps that lateral movement going, if he mixes in the grappling, like, I just think he's going to style on Trevin Jones. And we've seen Jones wilt to the wrestling. Believe it or not, folks, Cody Garbrandt used to be a wrestler. Like, he's got that in his back pocket. He never goes to it, but he's got it. He could. And if he comes out and takes this thing to the ground, Trevin Jones could trouble. Now, one thing I do want to point out, this isn't really my angle. Shout out Dan Tom. He does the Southpaw report every single week, and he's going to have a long list of Southpaws on this card. But Cody Garbrandt is 2-0 against UFC caliber Southpaws, I noticed. And that is something Trevin Jones is. So he's very, very talented and skilled at handling guys that have that alternate stance here. Trevin Jones is going to be KO or bust in this spot, and it's just a matter of how busted do you think Cody Garbrandt is. I worry about his confidence, man. He made that cut down to 125, which same sin that TJ Dillashaw made, right? He's such a motivation type of fighter. He's such a momentum type of fighter. I'm the baddest guy in the room. I'm the champion. I'm the guy that dethroned Dom. Like, he talks so much shit, and now he's tried everything, and none of it's worked. He's on a bad skid. He just got knocked out. Now he's coming back up to 135 to try it again. I'm not betting a confidence fighter who's low on confidence. So I think Trevin 5-star Jones with a 5-inch reach advantage has a chance to touch the chin of Cody Garbrandt and put him away, maybe for the last time. But am I going to be shocked at all if Cody comes out with wrestling shoes on and works his way to a really slow, really boring decision on Saturday? Not even a little bit. So I am going to tentatively pick Cody Garbrandt to go ahead and get the win, but for the love of God, I'm never laying chalk on this, man.
It's funny you bring up you're coming to the realization of like, oh, Jones isn't that good. I always hated Trevin Jones, to be honest with you. And nothing personal.
You're a step ahead of me.
He's got big power, but that's kind of all he's got. He's super low volume. Cardio is a bit questionable. Grappling overall it's okay, but again, nothing great. Problem with Cody is like he's just looks so washed, man. I mean, it's like it's a battle of like KO or bust fighters, really. It's like a battle of two guys who are just going to stare at each other. Like I know a lot of people will just look to bet the under here. First of all, the under 2.5, I'm looking at it right now. It's at -200. But on top of that, it's like these guys are going to stare at each other for a lot of this fight, in my opinion. And it's just more or less like you need like violence is going to happen. Don't get me wrong. I do think a KO probably happens, but at that number, there's no way you could catch me dead laying that on the under 2.5 rounds. Again, like you said, I think it should be a good fight for Cody because I don't think of anything for Trevin, but like financial advice here to everybody listening, you do not lay chalk on Cody Garbrandt, especially in 2023.
Just don't do it.
Just this is a fireball and popcorn. Get a drink. Enjoy the violence here in this fight.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you do
for me. I think again, yeah, this is a pass. Again, I know people aren't loving it, but yeah, this is a violent spot.
Man, for me, the only two things that you could potentially do is take the knockout prop on Trevin Jones, because if he wins, that's how he's going to do it. Or,
Plus
believe it or not, plus 300. It's better than plus 140, that's for sure. Or you sack the fuck up and you take Cody Garbrandt by decision, because that's going against everybody. The whole market telling you this thing is going to end early and everybody coming out here looking for a finish. I'm saying you could have a former champ back against the rope doing whatever it takes to get a dub over a guy who's been relatively durable in the UFC. And we see a decisionating Cody Garbrandt in this spot. And that, Danny, what's that number? What am I looking at?
I will add 2 points to that. So first, the decision prop, it looks like there's only two books that have it. So Bet Online has 4-1, and then I think Five Dimes has 5-1. So you might get a 5-1. Yeah. But what I will say is, again, talking about like if you like the overs here, the over 1.5, it looks like that. I don't know if that's going to be the widely available total or the alternate, but that's at -140.
Yeah, that's not half bad. I might take a poke on the 1.5. Again, though, the going with the overs, going with the decisions, like you're trusting Cody Garbrandt's chin doing that, and that's a dangerous.
That's a lot. Yep.
That's a dangerous game.
That is a dangerous game at chalk too.
At chalk. And Trevin Jones, though, will help you a little bit. He tends to be a little low volume looking for that one hitter quitter. So maybe you can get there with a late knockout, or maybe we can squeeze our way to a decision. But that's kind of how I'd be looking.
Pass fight for me, because I think a lot of people will be looking to bet the unders or looking to bet the KOs, and it's like, what if they just kind of stare at each other for, like I said, like 10 minutes, 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, it could be a very weird fight, frankly. This is one where I know a lot of people don't do this or don't care about this. Man, I'm listening to these interviews. I am listening so hard. You've got Trevin Jones who's moving over to Fortis MMA. That's a good move. That's a good camp. That's a good gym. Maybe he comes out looking better. And if he's all piss and vinegar, maybe I take the shot on the dog. And I'm going to listen to Cody Garbrandt. And if he's talking about smart shit, if he's talking about wrestling, if he's talking about mixing in the game plan, maybe we plug our nose and play the overs. I don't know yet. Well, and this could very well just be a pass. So, to be continued, folks, to be continued. Next up, you got Jamie Pickett welcoming in Bo Nickal, the biggest favorite on the card, -1,400. Dear God. So for those of you watching this show, and I don't know why you would be at this stage of the game, who don't know Bo Nickal, let me just tell you a little bit about Bo Nickal. 3-time NCAA Division I wrestling champion, 2020 Olympic finalist. He's training at American Top Team, 3-0 undefeated professional mixed martial artist. And he's got everything you want except experience. Now, the wrestling experience, in my opinion, counts for MMA experience because wrestling is the #1 best base you can have when it comes to martial arts. But we have so many things we don't know about Bo Nickal. Can he take a punch? I don't fucking know. Does he have good cardio to go a hard 15 minutes if somebody actually does have the ability to get up? I don't fucking know. Like, I can't trust Bo Nickal at 14-1 odds in this spot, but he's being given a propped up spot. Jamie Pickett is one of the worst fighters on the UFC roster. He's okay everywhere. He's not great anywhere, and he makes bad decisions. He doesn't throw his hands enough. He actually has power if he would let it go, but he's very hesitant on the feet. He tries to grind and wrestle and grapple people. This is a fight that's meant to get Bo Nickal some high-level experience. This is a fight that's supposed to get Bo Nickal some cage time and a highlight reel finish. That's what this fight is. I'm not touching it. I'm just going to watch this one and all hail the glory that is Bo Nickal. Danny, what do you got?
I will say, I don't think this is going to get him much cage time. I expect this fight to be over pretty quickly. But what I will say first, though, gotta shout out Penn State stand up. Penn State alumni myself, Bo Nickal, Penn State wrestling stud. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to add. I know people are trying to like throw Nickal in their parlays and this and that. What are you getting at 14-1? Like, if you're trying to like have action on every fight, for instance, and you want action on this fight, Bo Nickal, Jamie Pickett, the under 2.5 rounds is minus 400. Like, if you're trying to play violence in this, or you're trying to play every card, I think violence is where you're looking at in this card instead of in this fight, instead of laying the 14-1 on the money line. But again, it's one Nickal should just smash. I don't think Pickett offers up anything. But again, it's a pass. Like, the under 1.5 is minus 275. What are you trying to get out of it? So,
what's the under 60 seconds? Aren't there books out there that have the under?
Well, DraftKings usually has that, and I don't think that's out yet. But
okay.
Let me get Nickal in round 1 is minus 190.
All right.
So,
yeah, this would. Yeah. The way he went on his last Contender Series fight, I think MGM does it too, where it's like to win under 60 seconds also. This would be the spot where if you wanted to throw a dart at that kind of shit and count on Bo Nickal just running through his man, maybe take a little stab at it.
The only thing with that is, I would say, if you're getting a minus 190 on his round 1, like Nickal and under half a round, you're maybe getting like even money. Like maybe plus 120, plus 125. Like, I feel like you're not getting a good line on that. Or I guess, yeah, under half a round, I don't think you're getting anything. If you're doing anything,
those are some Ngannou numbers, man.
Yeah, this is a fight that you don't want anything to do with. This is another fireball and popcorn,
This is absolutely the fireball and popcorn fight of the night. Just make sure you get your fireball and popcorn before the fight starts, because you don't want to miss a second of this. Because, I mean, you do have somebody I've called relatively durable before, Jamie Pickett. He got knocked out in the second round against Dennis Julian, who's just an absolute handful. Jordan Wright can knock out, an elephant on the right night. He got clipped in round 1. Okay, I'll give him a pass. And then he got darsed by Kyle Dawkins with 1 second left in the first round. Like, again, I might be actually a little tempted to like give a shot at the over. That it's Bo Nickal's UFC debut. Maybe he's got jitters. Maybe he's got an adrenaline dump. He's really only fought trash cans. Believe it or not, Jamie Pickett is a step up in competition here for Bo. Like, that's where you flip the script and you hold your nose and take an over half round, or fight starts round 2 or something.
2.
Yeah. Fight starts round 2, something like that. Oh God, yep. Mushrooms saying vodka and hot porn. I mean, I'm going to be watching the fights personally, but maybe after. All right, everybody, do us a favor again. Hit that like button. Follow Danny if you haven't already. You can just pull up another window. Keep this one open while you do it, but go click the follow button over on Club and Sub and Danny. The next fight is one I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on, Danny, because we've got Gamrot, Mateusz Gamrot, filling in on short notice here against my guy, Jalin Turner. Now, I made a post a couple of weeks back about Brandon Moreno, because I think maybe he was my most profitable fighter of all time ever, because I've picked like the method of how he won every single fight with Figueiredo so far. And even the fight that he lost, I picked the over in that fight. So like, he was like my number one guy. I think Turner and TJ are like neck and neck. Okay, Turner, TJ, Cejudo. Those are my next like tier B. When you, I guess they're tier A. S tier is Moreno, and they're my most profitable fighters. Man, I've been all over this kid. He's a money making machine, and frankly, he's got cheat codes. It's not fair how big he is. He is so big. He's gonna have a 5-inch height advantage, a 7-inch reach advantage. I mean, seriously, like over half of a foot longer is his jab in this spot. The problem is the grappling. All right. Now, Jalin Turner has got solid takedown defense and good numbers, but it reminds me a whole lot of the angle I took on Amanda Ribas. Now, I can't have people calling me biased out here. I'm not going to present information on the side that I like and then ignore it on the side that I don't like. He could have very suspect takedown defense. When Jalin Turner first made it to the UFC, we saw him get out grappled. We saw him get out hustled by the steamroller. And that's exactly what Gamrot does. Gamrot's an incredible high-level wrestler. The scrambles he causes are unreal. We saw him against two extremely high-level opponents in his last couple of fights, fought closely with Beneil Dariush. And then even though it was a questionable decision, fought extremely closely with Arman Tsarukyan, who I think might be the best, grappler all around in the division. This guy is super legit. This is a massive step up in competition for Jalin Turner. Do I think he's capable of winning it? Yes. Yes, I do. I think this guy is potentially the future of the weight class if he can, patch up a couple holes, just because you can't handle the offensive capabilities this guy brings to the table. The one thing that concerns me, though, is his bottom game. When he gets put down on the ground, that reach, that height, that length, it becomes a burden because you can't get the knee shield in. You can't scoop you can't re-guard because the legs are too damn long. Like, his opponents can tie him up when he's on his back because he's got those long limbs and he just kind of can't get away from him. Mateusz Gamrot has such a clear path to victory in this fight, just coming in, taking this man down and grappling him. The thing is, this is not that easy. You got to get by those knees. You got to get by the stabbing front kick. You got to get by the little short hooks that he throws when you get in close and the uppercuts. Like, this guy is deadly. You saw what he did to Brad Riddell in his last fight. He's just getting better. I'm free rolling right now. If you take all the money from Jalin Turner that I have and pile it up in one spot in the corner of the house, I am free rolling on Jalin Turner. I might be willing to just light one unit on fire at plus 180 to go back to the well here with who has been my freaking guy, because you don't get this number on him. Problem is, I really don't feel like going against Mateusz Gamrot. So it's a tough spot, man. It's a really tough spot for me. And the short notice thing here for Gamrot also has me wondering a little bit, because he got the call on 3 weeks notice and then flew out to Florida immediately once he got the phone call. So I don't know how prepped he is. I'm sure he can go a hard 15 minutes grappling, but the Beneil Dariush fight, man, he was slowing down at the end of that thing. So there's some questions. There's a window of opportunity for Jalin Turner to win this fight. I don't think it's by decision. I think, again, it would be by finish. Maybe look inside the distance, get that extra juice on that number if you want to play that way. I think I have to pick Mateusz Gamrot. My brain is telling me that Mateusz Gamrot wins this thing by putting Jalin Turner on his back. He takes the L. He comes back better. He assaults this weight class in a year or two. I think it might be just a little bit too much too soon. But I really want to back my guy here. What are you doing, Danny?
So not in terms of money line perspective, but in terms of totals perspective, I think that Jalin Turner's probably been my biggest cash cow as well, other than maybe Charles Oliveira, I think, in terms of the unders. I had the fight doesn't go the distance against Medic minus 180 big. I had the under 2.5 against Malarkey big. I had the under 2.5 against Riddell big. And this guy's a finisher, but that's kind of what you alluded to at the end. I kind of think Jalin Turner, his win equity in this fight is a finish. He's got to catch Gamrot early, catch him in an early club and sub situation, those big knees. He's dangerous for sure on the feet. But I think the longer this fight goes, I think Gamrot can easily get takedowns.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at here. I think the grappling is so one-sided that Gamrot can get those takedowns, but Turner could definitely finish him. I get it. But if this goes 15, Gamrot's winning a decision, in my opinion.
If it goes all 15, it's got to be Gamrot. I completely agree with you there. Now, Gamrot could get, TKO or submission himself. That's totally on the table. So an under isn't always.
Yeah, I was just going to say the under 2.5 is minus 150. I think it's not a horrible look, because I think Turner does, in the grappling, I think give up some dominant positions that he did to Frivola, which is pretty much the largest sample size we have of him grappling. And then, like we mentioned, on the feet, Turner's definitely capable of knocking him out.
Absolutely. And with those long, lanky arms, man, he loves his front chokes. He loves the darce. He loves the guillotine. Rick right here, man. Turner by sub at plus 900. That's been a money printer, man. He has been subbing people left and right. But again, it's just this level of competition. Yes, Gamrot will be shooting for takedowns, so the opportunity will be there to catch him. I'm not sure you're catching Gamrot. That's the problem.
Yeah, I played Benny at plus 170 against Gamrot in the last fight, just because I knew Benny, at least, he's an elite scrambler. So he's a guy who's not going to accept that bottom position, whereas Turner, exactly. I'm not so confident in that.
No, Turner absolutely accepts bottom, and that's why I'm scared to back him here in this spot.
And he has cardio issues a little bit too.
Yeah, and that's because he's so damn big.
Yeah, true.
My guy Bufo with a great question. If Gamrot had lost to Arman, would he be the favorite here? I'd like to say yes, but I think it would probably be much shorter. You know, if he's coming off back-to-back losses, losing to Benny and Arman, it definitely would probably be like a minus 180 or a minus 170, something like that, instead of what it is right now. So definitely the recency has some influence here on the line, but I also think that the majority of bookmakers are smart enough to see kind of what we're seeing, and that is on the tape. Jalen's been taken down, and he doesn't do much once he gets taken down. So you have to make Gamrot the favorite in this fight.
Yep.
All right. Quick shout out to my guy David. What's going on? Not too late, my friend. We got some good fights coming up here for us to talk about. So thank you for joining the show. Next fight, we have got Geoff Neal taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. Oh my gosh, what a fight. I can't wait for this one, Danny. I mean, the last couple of fights we've talked about, except maybe Pickett and Bo Nickal, there's definitely the spectator side of things with Bo Nickal. We want to see Bo Nickal. We want to see how that fight plays out. So like all of these are just like must-see TV. These fights are fantastic this week. Geoff Neal, I've talked a lot recently. I've tooted my own horn. I've said how clearly I'm seeing things. The reads are great. It's all good. The betting finally is starting to turn and going well. Geoff Neal may be one of the guys I've had the worst reads on ever in mixed martial arts. Like, I just didn't think he was that good, man. I thought he was like a heavy hitter with big power. He caught Nico Price, maybe an early stoppage. He shouldn't have got the decision over Bilal. I finally get sold on him, and I bet him against Wonder Boy, and he loses. Like I have just been like zigging and zagging at the wrong time. Yeah. See, I've just been on the wrong side of Geoff Neal. Yeah. Every single time I've been on the wrong side of Geoff Neal. I even bet Vicente Luque against him, the last time out. I think I bet Santiago against him as well and dropped the split. That was a competitive freaking fight, but still, took the L on it. The split decision makes me feel a little bit better, but still took the L. I cannot get Geoff Neal down. This guy's got heavy hands. He marches forward. He's actually got some big kicks. Like, we don't see them all that often, but when he decides to unload on a kick, he's got some pop in his kicks. His takedown defense is ridiculous. He absolutely refuses to accept bottom position. I ran it back and I watched that Beneil Dariush fight again, man. And he like postures up on one arm and like side posts with two body weights on him. No problem. Like full on push up with one arm with two people hanging on him. He's so freaking strong and just does not accept that bottom spot. Beneil has been incredible lately. And this guy held him.
No, sorry, not Beneil, not the confusion. You said Beneil.
I apologize.
He was posting on the Bilal. Yep.
I'm talking about Bilal, and I said Beneil.
Because we were talking about Beneil in the last fight. It's okay.
We just talked about Benny, so I'm mixing the two up. So Bilal, he actually held Bilal to 0-7 on takedowns, which is impressive as shit. Because Bilal, I don't know if anybody follows me on Twitter, but if you saw, I challenged him to try to take down the tree he was kicking. Because the man can double leg a freaking redwood if he wants to. He's ridiculous. Man, I can't get around the fact that Geoff has a chance to keep this fight on the feet. Now, that's the big question, right? Because Shavkat Rakhmonov has been a submission machine as of late. His grappling is so slick. He's big. He's strong. He's got a good body lock. He's got the trip takedowns if he can't quite get it. He hit a nice judo throw against, what's his name? The short tank guy that he fought a couple fights back. Yeah, Prazeres. Thank you. And who finishes Prazeres? Nobody. Not a single person finishes the tractor, and freaking Rakhmonov got it done. Like, I couldn't be more hyped on Shavkat. I really could not be more hyped on Shavkat. But this minus 500 line, man, I can't get my head around it with Geoff Neal being his opponent. Now, Geoff's been kind of up and down a little bit lately, talked about having to, refine the fire for his game and all that kind of stuff. He's extremely live in this fight as long as it's standing. I think these guys, if he can defend the takedowns and keep it on the feet, this fight becomes exceptionally close. The thing is, we haven't seen a whole lot of what Shavkat can do on the feet at this stage. He he's been training. He's been working. He's been improving. His striking could be like way better than we're giving it credit for in this spot. I can't get to the money line, man. I just can't do it. And I have a hard time with even a violence bet on this one because I know that's how you get Shavkat as he finishes people. Geoff Neal's only been finished twice. He got knocked out by Holland back in 2017, and then he got subbed all the way back in 2013. Those are the only two finishes. They both came in round 3. So it seems like if you make this guy work, you drag him late, you wear him out, maybe then you can potentially get him out of there. But that's what it takes to finish that guy. I'm not doubting Shavkat. I just don't think I can lay minus 500. Do you have any type of angle to bet this one?
This is the one I was talking about earlier that I think the line is off. Jeff
There we
Neal
go.
plus 400. 20% indication is plus 400. And to me, on the feet, Shavkat, no doubt about it, hits hard, but he's low volume. I don't think the volume's there from him on the feet. And he's not a guy, yes, again, solid grappler, solid wrestler, but he's not a guy who's just going to be diving on legs either. I think the big question of this fight is, again, like you said, once Jeff gets down, what happens? Is he instantly fucked? Because there's not a lot of tape to say that he is. So to say that, again, minus 500, 85, we're getting minus 550, that's 85% implied. So to bet that we're looking at 90%, you think he wins 90%, that's a lot of hoops to jump through with the tape that we have to say that Jeff Neal is not a live dog with the experience that he has against the guys he's fought. Plus 400 Jeff Neal. Again, we talk about like the bankroll management, this and that. This is a kind of big dog where you go small on just because of the matchups. Now, one I went on, I think it was, I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, was Tybura against Romanov. Tybura was a plus 300 favorite. I had a unit and a half on that because the dynamic of the fight is if Romanov doesn't finish you in the first round, I mean, Tybura is a live dog. I mean, so you're getting plus 300 fading a round one finish. Like that's all day for sure. Now it's more or less you don't have the questions or you don't have the answers to the Jeff Neal grappling question mark. So it's a small shot for me, but 20%, I don't get it. And what's also interesting too, I don't know if this number is going to hold for the totals because I think it's only on one book, but the over 1.5 is minus 115.
That's
what's
where
crazy
I'd
to
be
me. I mean, Magny was priced at the same price as Jeff Neal is. And we know pre-fight, Magny is a horrible defensive grappler.
Yep.
Horrible.
Jeff Neal is far better than Neil Magny at this stage of his career. And man, I got to shout out my guy Buffo on the beat here in the chat. He already stole the comment, so I want to give credit where it's due. I was saving it as like my final little, reverse Uno trump card here for you at the end of this thing. I think this is going to be Shavkat's Burns fight. When Hamzat was all the rage, he runs through everybody. He's killing everybody in round one. Gilbert motherfucking Burns shows up and said, not so fast, son. Like took him a full 15, dragged him deep, made him work. He still got the win, but it was never easy. And I think this is that fight for Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think Jeff Neal is going to he's going to put him through the ringer. He's going to make him work for it. I don't know that Rakhmonov is going to get the finish. Obviously, he's that kind of a guy. He definitely could, but I think the overs are the play. I think this thing going over 1.5 rounds is the move. And I think maybe even this fight going all the way to decision is going to be the move because I could see Jeff Neal just refusing to quit and hanging in there. Now, I also could see a very good argument for a round 3 sprinkle on Shavkat. Like I said, the only times Jeff Neal has been finished, it's been in that third round after some attrition, after he's been chipped away at, and he's had a little bit of up and down. He's been talking about, not quite so sold on the sport, things like that. So with that little bit of doubt in there, I can still see Shavkat getting the finish. I definitely can understand late finish props, but I think this thing gets over 1.5, man.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised to see that as a pick'em. I mean, it took him nearly 2 rounds to finish Magny, who we just previously talked about is a bad defensive grappler. So,
yep,
surprised to see that as a pick'em.
Very good defensive grappler. So,
yeah,
definitely
at least for
like
sure.
that.
At least I guess the big thing I'm talking about as well, the questions being answered is his takedown defense is very good, but it's what happens once he hits the mat, and that's why for me it's a small play on Neal, and again for the over, it's a small play on the over just because of the data that we have.
Yeah. Okay. I like it, man. I like it. I will probably join you on that over. I don't know if I've got it in me to actually pick Jeff Neal to get the outright win, but I do think I'll join you on the over. And maybe even Shavkat like by decision or Shavkat by split or something like that, but I'll be probably playing that over 1.5.
So Shavkat by decision, you got plus 320 on 5 dimes, but plus 235 on Bet Online. So yeah, not a lot of props that's where early in the week. Yeah.
I hate it when they do that, man, because it's like I feel like I've got a hot read that should hold some value at it. They already beat me to it. The bookies are too smart. They've got a crunch down little number that doesn't feel nearly as sexy to get. But hey, you know what? I did it last week with Aliv. I took him by decision at plus 225. You've got a minus 500 favorite, and you find a way to make them a plus 200 dog. Like, it's hard to argue that's ever a bad move.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, folks, we are down to the good stuff, co-main and main event. We've got the queen herself, Valentina Shevchenko, the bullet herself, defends her title against my girl, Alexa Grasso. That picture, by the way, is right after she got lumped up in that fight that I was talking about. So there's the damage I was alluding to earlier. You've got Valentina, who, man, I mean, what is there for us to really say? We've been watching Valentina dominate this weight class for 5 years. You realize it's been over 5 years since she was in a non-title fight, man. I mean, it was Priscilla Cachoeira, the one fight that she wasn't in a title fight for 5 years ago. She's been absolutely insane. She is super well-rounded. She's got those big, powerful kicks. They're going to run the Jessica I head kick knockout highlight. You're going to see that 20 million times this week. She's got great footwork, strong offensive wrestling, and it seems like she's really just steered into the wrestling. She does that every single fight now. 2.53 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 64% accuracy. Like, if Val wants you down, you're going down. Now, she has a 70% takedown defense herself. The big question is, coming off that last fight, man, everybody and their mom feels like Valentina Shevchenko got away with one over Taila Santos. Taila was the right side in that fight, and she probably won. Val keeps her belt via split, and instead of running it back, goes, no, give me Grasso. Like, this is like a confidence builder, get right fight for Valentina Shevchenko. I kind of feel like she's slipping, man. I honestly feel like we're getting almost the way John Jones at the end of his run, we're going to talk about that in a minute, had a couple of really bad fights right before he called it quits for a bit. It feels almost to me that that's what's happening with Valentina. You know, her run as champion, Caitlin Chukagian, Jennifer Maia, Lauren Murphy, like the Andrade fight, you know, that's a great name, but Andrade is too small at this weight class. We've seen her wrestling defense. Like, that was a perfect matchup for her. It's been a long time since she's really fought real stiff competition. I mean, even you go back to Jessica I being one of her challenges, Joanna, who's fighting up a weight class, like, she just hasn't really had anybody to push her. So you got to wonder if her skill set is as dominant or if she's just been that much bigger than everybody else, frankly. Now, she's been better than a lot of these women, but a lot of these women are not title quality. Alexa Grasso, I actually think deserves to challenge for a title. I just don't know if she's ready quite yet. She's another girl moving up a weight class. You know, she was at 115. She's filled out at 125. She looks a lot better at 125, but she doesn't have that pop in her hands. She's got volume. She's got speed. She's got good boxing. The takedown defense is improving, it looks like. You know, her last couple fights, Carla went 4 for 11. Macy went 3 for 5. Not a good look. But Vivi went 2 for 10. So, like, she is showing the improvements she needs to. I just don't know if she's there yet. Can she outpoint Valentina Shevchenko in a 25-minute fight? I don't know if she can, man. I think Val's going to end up getting the takedowns. I think she'll find a way to get this thing done. I don't know that she finishes Grasso. I actually would be looking yet again at the overs and maybe even at a Valentina by decision type of approach here. Maybe the young gun surprises even me, someone who's been in her fan club cheering her on for the last couple years. And maybe she actually makes this thing really freaking competitive and close and pulls away and becomes new. But I really feel like this is just a get right fight for Val before she has to take on Erin Blanchfield. What do you think about this fight, Danny?
So sidebar a little bit to talk about the Taila Santos fight. That's a kind of bet where a lot of the community people will see like, oh, a unit on plus 500, plus 600 Taila Santos, it loses. That's like, oh, well, she lost. Well, you lost. It's like, no, that was a close fight. She probably deserved to win. And based off of like the odds probability in this and that, that's a great bet. But a lot of people, plus 475, people see that as, oh, it's a loser. It lost. That's what people need to understand, like the odds and how that really determine like making bets in this and that in this game. But like you touched on with Grasso, she kind of needs to outpoint her here. Like when we're talking about like money line and odds and this and that, I'm not advocating for Val by any means, but we're talking about how can Grasso win this fight. She has to outpoint her, in my opinion, for 25 minutes. She has to stuff the takedowns, which I don't think her takedown defense is the best. I actually, not that I'm looking to play the under, but I would actually be a little bit contrary to what you'd say in the over. I like the under. I actually think but the problem with that is if Val goes, you have to just know kind of in Val's head, really. If Val goes to the grappling early, I think she can get a finish on the mat pretty easy. I think the disparity in the grappling is there. It's just whether or not she goes to it and when she goes to it.
I actually really like what I've seen from Grosso's grappling, man. She's been working hard on that jiu-jitsu game. I think she's just a purple belt still. I don't think she's been promoted to brown just yet, but her butterflies are fantastic. The way she gets her legs involved, the way she regards, like she does a really good job of staying safe on bottom. And I think that's where it's going to take everything Valentina's got to hold her down. Like I think if Val like passes over to side control or even gets to half guard, like I think it's going to be a battle to get back to guard. And I just think she'll stay safe. And I think that'll kind of lead it to the over. Even though it might be like a dominant decision from Valentina, I think that Grosso can survive. And then on the feet, Grosso's not going to get hit with that kind of head kick. Grosso's not going to get Jessica Ide out there. But I think she'll make it competitive on the feet. So I do think this fight could play relatively closely, believe it or not. Again, I just don't know that I'm crazy enough to call for the outright upset on Alexa Grosso. I think Val's time is coming. Is it Saturday? Maybe not quite yet. I think Grosso's going to have a good showing. Probably Val gets it done one way or the other in the end.
And the thing is, too, like the over, it could look like an easy thing, too, depending on, like, because Val can just point from the outside, no problem. So it's just, she's not super urgent with that, with the grappling attack, you know? So
exactly.
You're playing with fire 100% on the totals.
Absolutely. And you know what, though? I don't see the totals yet. Superbook doesn't put those up until a little bit later in the week. What are you showing on the totals right now?
I got you. So the under 4.5 is minus 150. The under 3.5 minus 125. I think the under 3.5 is the largely available total.
I'll go over 3.5. No problem. You give me plus money on an over 3.5. I'll level this one, folks. I'll lay the over 2.5 alternate line. I'll lay the over 3.5, lay the over 4.5. And then you just let that butthole pucker, baby. You hang in there and see if this fight can make it 25 minutes.
So I was just going to let you know. So the starts round 3 is minus 155. And then over 2.5 is minus 125.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. I think I like overs, folks. Valentina Shevchenko gets my pick. She'll get the pick. But maybe a live bet if Grosso really has like shown the improvements I'm talking about, if she really does, get things going here. Maybe a live bet on Grosso. Maybe you take the Grosso split decision prop. That's the kind of shit that I would look at sprinkling if you need a little sweat.
Or when you were talking about getting a giant favorite down to plus money, if you want to, a little bit of a sweat because you're going 25 minutes, but Shevchenko by decision is plus 200.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. All right. Yep. And I'm pretty sure that's probably not, the real one, but I don't do threats on my show, man. Like, I don't know you, not joking with you. No threats. No hate speech, no spam, no threats. Get the fuck out of here. All right, folks, that will do it for the co-main event. Also, anybody rocking with me on the degenerate action? It's currently 1-0 in the Red Wings Senators game. We're 3 minutes into the second period, so under 6.5. We're right on target for the time being. Main event time, folks. You got John freaking Jones returning to the cage, taking on Cyril Gane. Holy crap, man. Maybe we should have hustled a little bit earlier in the evening because we could talk for like 2 straight hours on this fight by itself. Now, let's get it out of the way. I am the president, owner, CEO of the John Jones Hater Fan Club. I do not like this man. He's a shitty human being, and I have no problem saying that after the things that he's done. But the one thing that you can't deny is his skill set. You cannot get around the fact that he is one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen touch down in the octagon. And it drives me nuts because I want to watch him fight, but I don't want to support him. So I have to like grind my teeth every single time he gets in the cage. I honestly kind of hoped he just stayed retired and I didn't have to deal with him anymore. But here we go. I will embrace the violence and love the opportunity to watch him fight out there. The question is, what are we getting out of him? I just have so many questions about John Jones coming into this because you go back to his run at 205 and he took on Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and Dominic Reyes in succession, and he looked worse and worse in each of those fights. Now, most of us thought Thiago might have won that fight. It was close, and he had no knees. We all thought Dominic Reyes won the fight. Like that. It was close on one. It was a landslide the other way that we thought he lost it. And that's when John Jones decided to dip. Was he partying too hard? Did the motivation leave him? Was he just not training? Because it could have been a motivation issue for him. We're not entirely sure. But I felt like John Jones was slipping. I couldn't wait because I thought we were going to get Jan as the next challenger, and I was going to bet the shit out of Jan Blachowicz against Jon Jones in that next fight if they had booked it. Never happened. Maybe it saved me money. Maybe it cost me looking like a genius. I don't know. I can't tell you. But here we are way down the road, 3 years down the road, and Jon Jones is coming back on the week of Cocaine Bear launching, and you can't make that shit up.
Narrative.
Big narrative. He has done nothing but lift and avoid Jeff Nowitzki for the last 3 years to get himself up to heavyweight. This guy probably pisses nuclear right now. Based on the photos, he looks like he belongs at heavyweight all of a sudden. I want to see his legs, though, Danny. I want to see his legs, because that was always
chicken. They're still chicken legs, I think. Yeah.
I don't think you can do anything about those legs.
No, you
all
can't.
The steroids in the world ain't gonna fix that. No. The question is, what is he gonna do here against Ciryl Gane? Gane is a real heavyweight. Going from 205 to 265, there's no making up that difference. Gane is a real heavyweight. The only problem is we saw Francis Ngannou out-grapple this man. Now, I think the strength difference between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou, probably not super comparable, because Francis is a freak of nature. So maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it was the fact that nobody saw Francis Ngannou coming in with a wrestling game plan that night, so it caught everybody completely off guard. That might not be a problem, but it's a super clear path to victory for Jon Jones. If Ngannou can out-grapple Ciryl Gane, Jon Jones can out-grapple Ciryl Gane. Just period. But you go back and you look at Jon Jones's fights, he never really did. Like, the wrestling was always in his back pocket, but he prefers to strike with people. He always wants to extend fights. He always wants to get out there and play on the feet, toy with his food, poke people in the eyes a couple times. Like, that's Jon Jones's MO when he fights. I actually think we're going to get a kickboxing match here. And if that's the case, I'd be looking at overs again. Now, people that got on this thing early and got Jon Jones as an underdog, you can't ever criticize somebody for jumping on the absolute GOAT of MMA at plus money, even coming off 3 years layoff. Asking me to lay minus 160 coming off a 3-year layoff, that's a bit of a different story. I can't bet on Jon Jones at this point. And frankly, I don't want to, because I've got a lot of questions about the condition that he's in coming back into this fight. For me, it would be Gane or pass, but I also really don't think I want to bet a side on this fight at all, because the Jon Jones backers, he could be minus 300 coming back in this fight within a round. You know what I mean? He could just look like an absolute beast if he does everything the right way. I'm tempted to fade him coming back with Ciryl Gane, mostly because of the hate in my heart, but also because the number and a more active current fighter in that position. But I've got a real hard time. I've struggled to actually pick against Jon Jones if he really believes he's coming back 100%, because motivated Jon Jones does destructive things to people. Talk to me, Danny. What are you thinking about this fight? And let me know what you're doing.
So I know a lot of people are going to be wanting to bet Jon Jones, and maybe this is a hot take, but for me, money line side, it has to be Gane or you're passing, because I think there's just a lot of assumptions to be made on the Jones side, not to mention the 3-year long layoff. I mentioned, but talk about the wrestling. You talked about it a little bit. He doesn't use it a lot. He's not very effective with it. And I think a lot of people will see the Ngannou fight, like massive, big guy Ngannou, not a wrestler at all, never really goes to it at all, easily able to take Gane down, control him. So Jon should be able to. Jon could. Jon's definitely the better wrestler of the two, but size, we talk about this fight, size matters. It's a massive jump up from light heavyweight to heavyweight. But no, I'm with you. I think this is largely a kickboxing fight. I think it's a close one that goes to the cards. I'm on the over already, minus 145. Played that for a unit. I think that's a good way to approach this fight. I think it's a close one that goes to the cards. I'm not trying to play into a narrative here or anything, but they're already talking about if Jon does win, they're already trying to book Jon Stipe International Fight Week. And they were like, oh, if Gane wins, then it complicates things a bit. I'm not trying to buy into that narrative or anything like that. I think it's a close fight either way. Obviously, UFC would like to see Jon win, but this is a hard-ass fight to come in your return.
It really is. Diving in at the deep end, essentially, of heavyweight, it's tough. Now, I do think Jon Jones in his prime, that era of light heavyweight was probably more skilled than the era of heavyweight we've been seeing. So there's no saying Jon couldn't come back and just be the better fighter at this point. That's absolutely on the table, which is why, again, the questions exist. But both Jon and Ciryl tend to be a little low-paced. They tend to play with their food a little bit. They tend to, set stuff up. It took Ciryl until the third round to KO Tai Tuivasa, even though he was shredding his body with front kicks out there. He's just patient. I don't expect we're suddenly going to get this weird rage-fueled Cyril Gane that's going to force this fight early. I think the 1.5 is absolutely the move here. And if John comes out and arm bars this guy in the first
4.5
and
4.5,
just, blows the brakes off, then I'm sorry. Like, the GOAT can't be stopped. But I think it'll be either a slow death for John Jones, or he does what he always does and he decisionates Cyril Gane. I'd be looking at overs.
Clint, over 4.5, by the way. I think
And
you
I'll
said one. I'll
pick John Jones.
I think you said 1.5 for the total.
I'm sorry, 4.5.
4.5. You're good. Yeah. That would be a gift if the total was 1.5.
Oh my God, no kidding. That would be insane if the 1.5 was a pick'em price tag.
And then what I will add as well on the people that like Gane as well, like we talked about with the overs, Gane decisions plus 300.
Well, yeah, that's not bad. What is the Jones decision? I'm sure it's probably
plus 180,
a little shorter. 180. Okay, that makes some sense to me. You could also see John getting the. And I'm sorry, I know this is narrative street, but you could absolutely see him getting the nod if it's a close fight. We've seen it happen before, I could absolutely see him getting a tight decision that maybe we felt should have gone the other way.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm not trying to say like, oh, bet John because, he has the narrative on his side and this and that. But like, we can't ignore the narrative going around that I think they want a Jones-Stipe fight on the International Fight Week. So,
yeah. Probably so. That's definitely the narrative if you're going to play into it. God bless all you playing the Gane money line. I wish I could join you. I don't think I can get there. I may not have a bet at all on the main event, guys. Like this one, when a fighter comes out of retirement this way, it's just so tough to tell. Like when George St. Pierre came back after that long layoff and took the belt back, like I didn't expect him to finish Bisping the way he did that way. Like I thought he was going to go back to his wrestling. You just never know in these types of spots. It's really tough because there's so many questions. There's so much missing information. We broke this whole card down for you guys front to back. We gave our opinions and information that we've got on everything. Hopefully you guys use that to make some more intelligent bets and find a way to win yourselves some money. Do us a favor. Again, this is Pub Sports Radio. Subscribe. If you haven't already, consider becoming a member. That's the best way you can support us, bring in the free content to you guys. Shout out to my audio listeners. I don't talk to you guys enough. And for that, I am sorry. Thank you so much for the reviews. We're up to, I think, 4.7 stars on the reviews. I've seen some of the wonderful comments. Thank you all so much for those nice things. Danny, you've stuck with me like a freaking trooper for an hour and 45 minutes, man. Thank you for breaking down this card. The floor is yours. Shout out if you got any sponsors. You want to tell them where they can find you, the shows, whatever. Go right ahead, man.
Well, Clint, as always, appreciate you for having me here. Love talking MMA with you. No matter what week it is, I'm always down to come on the pod. You can follow me, Danny_Lags, as usual. The Club and Sub podcast, John Stargarian, as you see on Twitter, myself. The Club and Sub podcast, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. We are running a giveaway this week because we were running giveaways I started at I believe it was the UFC Brazil card with Glover, Jamal Hill. So we did the parlay the giveaway was essentially you make a parlay, 4 legs, and I believe 2 of the legs had to be Brazilians, and you had to pick them a method of victory, either ITB, money line, whatever. We didn't have any winners from then, so we went to the Australian card. Same thing, but Australian fighters. We had no winners then. So John and I are going to have another giveaway this weekend, $100 giveaway total. We'll tweet out the details on fight day, but cool. Again, it's largely going to be a four fight parlay. I'll include details, everything. Free giveaway.
Good deal. Everybody go check out the free giveaway. Everybody likes that. And of course, as always, I will be doing the absolute gambit of shows this week. It's a pay-per-view week, so we'll be having the Fight Exchange, the Prediction Strike show that we do. That'll be on my personal YouTube channel, which I am trying to build that back up and put some more content over there. So some of you, if you wouldn't mind, hit up my personal YouTube channel. I wouldn't mind a couple of additional followers over there. But then, of course, we've got the Total Takedown, the Undefeated Post Weigh-In show. You guys know where to find those right here on Pub Sports Radio. And then we will be having the Sharp Action Report with my guy Andrew from Superbook Sports. Thank you all so much for coming in here to the show tonight. Good luck on all your degenerate action. Remember, bankroll management is extremely important. Don't gamble more than you can afford to lose, folks. We're supposed to be out here having fun. Let me know what your favorite bet for the week is going to be down in the comment section below. And have a wonderful week, folks. Have a wonderful week. Let's roll.